Hello everyone, welcome to Civil Prep. I am Krishna Gupta and this is Geography Optional Foundation 2026 which is free for all. Okay, we are supporting here free education for all. Okay, you can go to this website, that is civilprep.in, www.civilprep.in, and here you can enroll yourself. You will simultaneously get the value added, the daily PDF of what we are studying here, the same document what I am teaching you, the same document you will get here. Okay, and later on we will see that we will be also discussing certain questions on daily basis. We'll be also looking at certain PYQs which are related to the questions here. Okay, so guys, welcome to all of you, okay, who are watching these lectures. And yes, do share, do subscribe to my channel, and do comment also. Yes, Urmila, good morning. Okay, so do comment that how did you like this lecture? What were the special things that you find here? Okay, over the comment box. Okay, not in live chat, because in live chat it is not visible to everyone, but in comment box when you will write there, it will be visible to all the other students who are listening to this lecture here. Okay, now today's topic is quite important. Okay, why it is important? Because it is defining something which is uh, right now the foundation of the geography. Okay, why it is foundation of the geography? Because we have seen in the previous lecture that there were certain things with respect to the quantitative revolution. The quantitative revolution, it defined geography. It defined geography as nomothetic. It defined geography as lawmaking. But certain things which lack here, that was the human connection with the geography, which was completely lost. Why? Because quantitative revolution, which is based on the logical positivism, it explicitly specifies that human feelings have no we can say that no place in the quantitative revolution, because it is very subjective and we need something which is only objective. Therefore, the quantitative revolution failed to see that what are the problems of human beings and how these problems can be solved by using the quantitative revolution. So this became one of the important foundation for uh, just give me a second. This became one of the foundation for the revolution in the geographical studies. Like I will just specify here. We will again refer to the Kuhn and Popper. Okay, in the initial phase, we have aerial differentiation, which declined in 1940s. Okay, then we have quantitative revolution, which declined in 1960s. But after this, what we will see that there was development of three other paradigms in geography. What are these three paradigms? These are number one, behavioral, number two, radical, and number three, humanist. Now remember one thing, this radical, okay, this radical branch which we are seeing here, it got diversified into two other branches, one of which is Marxist and another branch is welfare or welfareism. Okay, but later on we will see that what happened to all these branches. We will be looking at them in quite detail here. So this is an important part which we see here is important for geographical understanding. Now, before moving forward, I would like to ask you that how many of you have written answer for the question I have given in the previous class? Have you tried to attempt that question? Okay, so there was an issue. I think there was the screen was not visible here. Now the screen is visible. Okay, very good. Uh, do send me your answer. You can find the number that is, I'll just provide it to you. This is my Telegram number. Okay. And you can also go to the profile of YouTube. I'll just specify you how to go there. Okay, this is my channel. Now here when you will go, you will see here that there are links are provided here. So you can send your answer to me at telegram t.me/civil_prep. So this is the channel through which you can come to my channel, and here you can specify your answer. You can submit your answer. Yes, okay. And this answer you can send me here and we will evaluate it live. Okay, live like how we are interacting right now. In the same manner, we'll be evaluating the answer also, which will be very much useful for you to understand subject and the subject matter and knowledge. Okay, let's move forward. Now, second thing what we will see here that the quantitative revolution had certain other issues. Certain other issues, as we have seen in the previous lecture, that criticism of the quantitative revolution. Same thing we will see here as a part of the historical development of behavioral geography, and then we will move forward that what behavioral geography is. Okay, so you can note this diagram that how there was areal differentiation one paradigm, then in 1940s it declined, then quantitative revolution arrived. In 1960s quantitative revolution declined, and there was rising of behavioral, radical and humanist geography. You have to remember one thing here, that the radical geography, it then diversified into two branches. One was the Marxist geography and second was the welfare geography. What happened later on, we'll be studying about them in detail further. Now, coming to the aspect again here. Now, introduction and historical context with respect to the behavioral approach in geographical thought. The behavioral approach emerged as a critical response to the limitations of the quantitative revolution in geography. By the late 1960s, despite the quantitative revolution's significant contribution to geographical methodology and theory, fundamental critics revealed serious shortcomings in its ability to comprehend actual human phenomena. We have in the previous seen in the previous lecture that number one, there were certain criticisms of quantitative revolution. Number one, there were certain despite geography becoming despite geography becoming one of an important subject, okay, which was able to now solve the problems of the world, but it neglected poverty majorly in the spatial scale. Number two, the war crisis like Vietnam. Number three, we will see here the issues with respect to the pollution. Number four, certain facilities which were basic, like food, which resulted in food insecurity, food insecurity and malnutrition. Number five, there was stark increase in inequality across the world. Okay, before the advent of the Europeans, the world was not seen from the global north divide and south divide. But later on, we will see that because of the increase in inequality, there was north divide and south divide was created. North divide basically it consisted of North America, then European region, then Russia, Japan, and Australia. While the south divide it consists of complete South America, complete Africa, Southeast Asia, and the island nations of Asia. Okay, so these were certain issues which were prevalent in those time period. Now, highlighting this part, the this resulted into a social relevance movement, which took almost around in 1970s. So there was a social relevance movement. This social relevance movement, it created the base for its movement for all these things which we have specified above. Now, because of this thing, what we see that there was a crisis situation already for the quantitative revolution. So this was the crisis phase. And here, this social relevance movement, the social relevance movement, it paved the way for the development of the this behavioral approach and the other approaches in the geography optional as a discipline here. Let's understand it more with respect to the clarity. The approach represents a paradigm shift from viewing humans as economically rational actors making optimal spatial decisions to understanding them as cognitively constrained individuals operating within psychological, cultural, and social context. This transformation fundamentally enriched human geography by bridging the disciplines of geography and psychology, creating what scholars termed it as neo-positivistic approach that retained the scientific rigor of positivism while incorporating more realistic assumptions about the human behavior. Now let's understand this point here. After World War II, what it was seen that the various developed countries they started to understand what was the cause of two world wars. This is one of the question which was in the mind of almost every person across the world. What was the actual cause that resulted into these wars? So it was seen that there were certain things which were not explained by the quantitative revolution, but this was something which was understood from the field of psychology. Okay, it was understood from the field of psychology. Here came one of the very important branches, that was the psychology, which helped to understand the human psyche. For example, if I talk about the human psyche and the war issues, number one, the trust issue within the nations before World War One. Okay, so there were trust issues within the countries. Number two, what it was seen that these countries they were actually they wanted to make their supremacy. They want to show that they are supreme in terms of power, in terms of resources, in terms of imperialism, in terms of various other things. Okay, but when the World War One ended and Germany was defeated, Germany was not defeated in the over the field, but it was also defeated. The Germany was also defeated when the Treaty of Versailles was signed. Under this Treaty of Versailles, when it was signed, Germany was actually humiliated, and Germany went on to the retaliation by just wanted to prove itself that Germany is not less than any other country, but it is also a superior nation. To prove itself as a superior nation, Germans they started to call themselves as Aryans, which was one of the pure races. And as the supremacy continued, they started to label other, we can say, races as the inferior races. And these inferior races, they had no place over the earth to live, so they should be living the earth, living this world. So these things were seen as a part of the psychology, where the various emotions of humans were studied. And what geography did here? What geography did here? Geography connected these emotions with the space. What is the emotions of Indians in India? What is the emotions of the Americans in United States of America? What are the emotions of people who are living in Germany? What are the emotions of the people of France who have just won the World War One? Okay, so there were certain emotions which were seen over the place. They were interconnected, and in this way, we see that there was a science which came out here, which was a part of the psychology. It is called as behavioral sciences. Now, behavioral sciences it gained prominence during the 1950s. Okay, after the World War II was ended, and these questions arrived at what was the issue, what was the cause of these wars. So the behavioral sciences it came into the picture, and behavioral sciences people started to understand the reasons, the causes that why people have such kind of psychology, what is the actual issue behind their behaviors. So this resulted into the also development of the behavioral geography as a part of the human geography. Now, behavioral geography it had certain things which was common to the human geography. Quantitative revolution, for example, behavioral geography it started to gather data, facts, statistics. And this data, facts, and statistics, it was defined on certain parameters, okay, which can be basically emotions. Okay, so what is the basic reason for any human being to react in a particular way? So there were certain emotions which were defined. For example, you might have seen the wheel of emotions where we have happy, then sad, then we have disguise, then anxious, then happy, then humiliated. So there are a lot of emotions. There are more than 100 of emotions. The emotions and their subsets which have been defined in the contemporary time. So these emotions they were studied and they were kept a very close watch that what is the basic cause for such kind of action. And here we see that the actions they were started to be connected with the emotions here. So this became one of the foundation for the behavioral geography here. So as it was based on data and statistics and the various kind of facts, so this became one of the front bearer for the positivistic approach in the geography. So as it was the later part, or it was the next step of the quantitative revolution, this was called as the neo-positivistic approach also. Now, criticisms that promoted the behavioral approach in geography. Now, number one, the limitations of the quantitative revolution, some of which we have already seen before, we'll just go through them. Number one, the quantitative revolution despite its methodological sophistication and theoretical achievements, faced mounting criticisms by the late 1960s. These critics originated from within the positivistic school itself, suggesting fundamental methodological problems rather than mere technological shortcomings. So this was seen as one of the criticism for the quantitative revolution. Number two, the theory development crisis, as we have seen in the previous part. The quantitative revolution or geographers expected their scientific methodology to generate powerful explanatory theories comparable to those in natural sciences. Okay, natural sciences like botany, physics, chemistry, then we can say psychology, then polity. So there were certain natural sciences, zoology, then uh, zoology and geology. So these were natural sciences. Instead, geographical theory development proved painfully slow. Okay, it was very slow, revealing that mathematical rigor alone could not resolve fundamental questions about human spatial behavior. This discrepancy between methodological sophistication and theoretical advancement suggested deeper conceptual problems here. So, this was the second point. Number three, oversimplifying assumptions about the human behavior. So, human behavior, it was seen as mere a simplified part here. Like what I am thinking right now and uh, what people are thinking about me from a particular perception, it can be understood from the fact that the people are seeing me from merely from a perception that what they are understanding me to be. So if they are thinking my thoughts as simple, so it becomes oversimplified here. Quantitative models treated humans as perfectly rational economic actors, mechanically responding to spatial distance and economic optimization. For example, if you're hungry and you want to eat something, what do you want to eat? So it will be defined under certain simplified parameters. Like if you are living in India, there can be certain set of options like there can be samosa, there can be, if you're living in Delhi, there is chole kulche. If you're living in southern India, then there is idli and dosa and sambar vada. If you're living in Gujarat, then you have khandvi, fafda, okay, dhokla. If you're living in the eastern part of India, you have puri sabji, then litti chokha. If you are living in Rajasthan, then you have dal bati. So you have various savories with respect to the dal. Okay, so here we have certain rationality part here. So, but I am a person who is hungry right now, and I have certain constraints with respect to the money. So I would like to go opt for those kind of food which can be affordable by me. So here what it is saying that rationally what it is saying that certain people they will pay 50 rupees, but if I have capacity for only 15 rupees, 1 5, then I can pay only for those things which are under the 15 rupees. So it can be bread, it can be just tea and bread, or it can be tea and we can say the biscuits. So these are the things which became as a the different perspective part here. Okay, there can be something other things also. So this was not taken as a rational part. Okay, this were taken something which was not rationally defined here. So they assumed that farmers selected land uses to maximize profit, that migrants choose destinations minimizing travel distance and cost. That is the distance decay principle. And that consumers stopped at nearest retail centers. No, it is not true. If you are living in a if you are living in either old Rajendra Nagar or Patil Nagar in Delhi. So you will find something that if you'll go to the market which is present in Karol Bagh, you will be very much astonished. But if you want to have something which is more cheaper and variety, so you can either go to the Chandni Chowk, or you can either go to uh, the far places where there is the market or the factories are present. So it is not depending upon the nearest retail centers here. Okay. Reality revealed far greater complexity. The humans made culturally informed choices. Okay, this is important. The culturally informed choices acted on incomplete information and pursued multiple objectives beyond the economic gain. I am highlighting these points here. Humans made culturally informed choices, acted on incomplete information, and pursued multiple objectives beyond the economic gains. Now, understanding this one by one. If I am living in United States of America, I am a person from Maharashtra, that is Nagpur. So if I go to USA and there is a function, so I would opt for the clothes that I wear in the Maharashtra. Okay. It will not be like I will be opting for clothes which is quietly used in USA, or I won't go for the designs which are present of the kind of the Rajasthan or Bihar or South India. But I will opt for the things which is more related to my culture, which is present in Maharashtra. Okay, so this is something which becomes quite unique here because culture is important here. Now, number two, in Maharashtra, in this region, we have more consumption of poha, which is also called as tari poha. So I will opt for the food which is related to the tari poha. Okay, I will not opt for the things like North Indian or South Indian or Gujarati, or I can say the Bihari food, or the West Bengali food. So there are certain things which are culturally interlinked. So it is choice which is made by me if I am living in certain place or certain region. So here, this is one important part. Second thing, what it is seen that rationality and irrationality, how it is defined. If I have certain knowledge about a product, I will consume it. But in the second case, what it is saying that I am also consuming certain products which I am not completely aware about. But I just know that these products exist and they will be able to solve my problems. Therefore, I am going for such kind of products on the basis of incomplete information also. This is quite away from the quantitative revolution, which made humans as a rational beings. Now, in the third part, and pursued multiple objectives beyond the economic gains. For example, I am not doing every activity which is very much economically economic for me. For example, the class which I am taking right now, if I'm an economic person, I won't be taking this class because here I'm not getting any kind of income or economic gain here. But what I'm seeing here, I'm seeing the broader perspective with respect to the education for all. Okay, I want to make geography optional, one of the very important stream for the future. Okay, so that is my second objective. Third thing, I want to aware the students that yes, geography is doable. It is not a very technical subject. It is not a very difficult subject, but it is a doable subject. We just need to learn it from the right teacher and from the right part here. Because I have also gone through the process where a lot of books have to be read, and these books they are almost around 1500 pages, 1200 pages, 800 pages. So just to read these books, it takes around 1 to 1.5 years. So how to cover this geography optional subject in a very limited time with the maximum or best content? So this thing I am willing. I want that aspirants should know this part here. Therefore, this is something which is beyond the economic gain. But yes, it is an aesthetic gain for me. It is an ethical gain for me. And it is something which is very much important for my heart. Because earning money is not very important at a stage where I have multiple sources of earning also. So this is quite a thing which is quite uh, good for the society and for me also. Okay, because I am getting satisfaction with the knowledge or what I have and I'm sharing with you. So this is one thing that is beyond the economic gain. Now, moving forward, number 4 point, deductive methodology limitations. The quantitative models built here is deductively. Okay, we have already talked about induction or inductive technique and deductive. Inductive method and the deductive method. Okay, if you have any kind of query here, you can go to my first lecture and you can see how the inductive method works and how the deductive method works. They have been I will provide the link in the description also. You can go through those particular aspects there. beginning with assumptions about the human rationality and deriving spatial patterns logically. This approach proved problematic because the foundational assumptions were questionable. Okay, now I have some assumptions about a particular problem. Uh, you might have studied maths in school, class 3, class 4, class 5, class 6. So, under mathematics, what you would see that there would be a particular problem. Problem would be an equation. And for solving it, the number first thing that you would be doing there, that was an assumption. Okay, you would take certain assumptions there and you will solve that problem in particular process. And you will prove the equation is correct. Okay, thus what we see here that the assumption which we made here, the assumption, it is real, hence proved. We always used to write hence proved in mathematics. Do you remember this? That we used to this particular exercise whenever we used to do mathematical problem solving or mathematical analysis. You can comment in the box that do you agree with me? You can write in the comment box. Yes, very good. So this particular approach, it also started to be applied in geography also. That in geography also will be make certain assumptions. We will make certain conditions under the assumptions. And in the end, we will equate those things. Okay. And we will make it hence proved. Okay. So this will also result into the acceptance of the theories and models, which is similarly done in the mathematics. But in geography, it became quite absurd. It became very much subjective. The things which were moving from the objective part, it again becomes subjective because people started to define those rationality factors also. Now, when predictions failed to match the observed patterns, as we are seeing right now, the faulty lay not in mathematical executions, but in unrealistic behavioral assumptions by the people. Okay, so this was something which was quite unique and it was making this particular geographical assumptions different from the mathematical assumptions here. Okay, now number 5, here we have the normative and irrelevance. Normative irrelevance. Okay, by reducing humans to spatial coordinates and economic utilities, the quantitative revolution ignored the qualitative dimensions of human existence, values, meanings, cultural context, and subjective experiences. Geography became unable to address questions about the human dignity, social justice, environmental quality, or place attachment. So these were certain things which were ignored in geographical studies. This became quite irrelevant in the study of the geographical phenomena. So this was the normative irrelevance which was seen under the quantitative revolution. Okay. Now, these were certain criticisms. Now, second is the theoretical foundations for the behavioral geography here. Now, the definition and scope. Number one, what is behavioral geography? Okay, I want to ask you what is behavioral geography? I would like to ask you what is behavioral geography? Can anyone answer here? What is behavioral geography? You can read it from here also. I will read it, just provide it here. Behavioral geography represents an approach to human geography that attempts to understand spatial activity by studying behavior at the disaggregate. Yes, it includes the human perception. But human perception is also included by radical geography, Marxist geography, structural geography, exceptionalism geography, existentialism geography, human geography, and every geography is also including the human perception. So we have to be very much precise that what we are seeing here. Okay, so by studying behavior at the disaggregate level of individual persons, okay, number one, rather than treating aggregate populations as homogeneous units responding uniformly to spatial stimuli, behavioral geographers recognize that individuals vary significantly in their perceptions, decision making process, and spatial behaviors. For example, I always ask this question to a lot of students whenever I am taking class. So I used to ask them that there are two options for you. I am giving you 2000 rupees. Either you can, I'm not giving 2000 in person, but either I will give you 2000 rupees or either I will take you to a party where per person cost is 5000 rupees. So, maximum students here they opted for taking 2000 rupees in person, but not going to the party, which is individually costing around 5000 rupees. So, here a pattern was seen from the students' perspective that what the students perceived about the money. Second thing, what the students perceived about the party where we are having lunch or dinner or we are enjoying in our part here. But you will see that when the same student they go to a job, okay, they will be starting to earn. So under that condition they will be spending 5000, 10,000 rupees to have the similar kind of experiences, because here in the student life we have different experiences, but when you are an employee, okay, you are working, you have different experiences. So this behavior, it is contrasting in nature, but it is not contrasting, it is according to the experiences that those students have. In student life we have 2000 is also very high for us, but when you are earning 5000, 10,000 is also nothing, because you know that in next month you will again get that amount of money back. So here the perception differed, here the decision making it differed, here the spatial behaviors it also differed with respect to the person to person. So here things became quite we can say it was individual based. It was individual based. Okay, so I'm reading this again. Rather than treating aggregate population as homogeneous units responding uniformly to spatial stimuli, behavioral geographers recognize that individuals vary significantly in their perceptions, decision making process, and the spatial behavior. So this was something that which basically uh, which differed one individual to another individual. But what we need to do here, first thing we need to define that individual. Okay, we have to define this individual, not an individual, but basically what we look here, there is a group of individual who are present in this particular individual part here. So here the behavioral geography, it not only became, it made certain subjective part as more objective, okay, by defining them in a better precise manner. Second, the core principle here, the fundamental insight animating behavioral geography is that human decision making depends upon both objective reality and the subjective perception. Okay, what I'm talking about, there is a student and there is a working employee. Both are same person in different time period. Okay, so here the objective reality at both the point it will be different from the subjective person, which will change from time to time here. Okay, so this is something which is very much peculiar in the human geography to understand. The space people actually navigate is not merely the objectively measured Cartesian space of quantitative models, but a psychologically constructed space shaped by individual perception, cultural interpretation, and experiential learning. Now, there is a question by me to you. Question number one is the places you like to visit uh, recurrently. I want an answer for this question. Okay. Number two, the places you try to avoid, the places where you do not want to visit again. Okay. Every person have these two places here. The places they want to visit regularly and the places they want to not visit again. I want an answer from you that what are these two places? Place number one, you want to visit again and again, and place number two, where you do not want to visit again, where you want to avoid that place. What are these two places for you? See, places is something, for example, if you are living in Delhi right now, so this place can be a restaurant, it can be a temple, it can be certain location where the traffic is very high. It can be a park, it can be a adventure sport, it can be something which is like an important food, or this place can be something which is very much personal to you. Personal, like in the sense you can either enjoy that place or you can you feel burdened in that place. Okay, so what that places are, these two places. What are these two places? Number one, temple you want to visit again, and number two, relative houses. Yeah, I was expecting that. The relative house very much. Okay. So what we see here that we have something which is attached. Now, why you want to visit temple again and again, and why you want to avoid the relative houses? I want an answer for these two questions also. Why you want to visit the temple again and again, and why you want to avoid the relative places almost all the time. What is the thought behind it? Number one, what is the experience of you behind that particular action? What you feel that you gained or what you lost in these two things? Okay, I need something which is quite precise and specific. Temple for peace. Okay, and relatives for peace avoid. That is peace disruption, or I can say conflict. Okay. Now, this is something what we see here, that is psychologically constructed space. A temple is nothing but it is just a we can say a structure which is present over the land. Okay. A relative house or relative place, it is also structure which is present over a land. But our psychological perception or our psychological construct with this two structure, that is a temple and a relative place, is very much different. A place where I can go regularly is very much different that a place that I will avoid regularly. Why? Because psychologically, we are having certain objective reality and certain subjective perception of our relatives and of the temple in our mind and with our feelings also. So, because of this thing, what we do here, we have a specific learning. Now, if I go to a certain aspect more deeper here, we will see here that when you go to temple, our individual perception here it is like the voices of the chantings, number one. Number two, the metal, we can say the sound of the metal, it is very peaceful. Number three, the environment it is quite open. Okay, it feels fresh. Okay, it has certain trees, certain plants. Okay, there are certain offerings. When you offer something to a temple or to an individual, you feel peaceful. You feel very good. Okay, and next thing you get in return certain amount of we can say prasad which you take and you feel also very good. Okay, you feel divine in that particular point here. So here our personal experience it is very much subjective, but yes it is objective for every one of us because every one of us feels in the same way, therefore it became objective. But yes, there is subjective things are also there. For example, there are certain people who feel very much attached to a temple, certain people who just go to a temple because their friends are going. So here there are two different perceptions also. Okay, so there is an experiential learning here. We learn from our experiences that what experience I am individually having in a particular temple. Now, under the relatives place here, the same thing, the individual perception that they will ask, what are you doing? What is the future? What job you are taking? You are studying for UPSC. This is a 5-year plan. There is a ratio of 0.01% of selection. Only 1,000 people out of 10 lakh are selected. Okay, so what can be your number here? What have you learned in the current affairs? They will start to ask absurd questions. Okay, so these are something which we experience when we go to the relative place, which we feel like it is an attack on our individualism. Okay, it is an attack on what we think. It is a question to what we believe. It is a question, it is a challenge to what our potentials are. So they are always challenging us. So these challenges, they are resulting into kind of a conflict. And in the back of the mind, you will be also thinking that the person who is saying these things to us, what he have achieved in his lifetime. So that is the second part which is also seen in this particular place कि खुद ने तो कुछ किया नहीं लेकिन हमारा पूरा कुंडली लेके बैठे हुए कि हमने क्या किया और क्या नहीं किया है और क्या करने वाले क्या नहीं करने वाले. So this is something which is very much conflicting between the relatives and us in this time period. Then those relatives they will be following the we can say the diffusion model where the information will be spread from one place to another place. For example, if you are saying yes we'll do, yes we'll do, but the moment you retaliate you will become bad person. The moment you are saying yes 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 you are a good person, but the moment you retaliate and you'll start questioning their questions and them, so you become a bad person. So in this way there is a diffusion of information that you are either a good person or you are a bad person. So this diffusion of information it will be spreading throughout the region or your relatives, other relatives. So this makes it quite painful for you to perceive those experiences. Okay, those experiences because we are not habitual to such experiences and we do not have those cultural part in our you basically we have not learned that things that how these things have to be tackled very smoothly. So this is something which becomes very much personal, very much subjective in this part. But yes, almost all the population they experience same thing, therefore there is this is an objective reality. Almost 90 to 99% of the aspirants they will be having the similar feelings with respect to a temple which is peaceful and this the relative place which is conflicting in nature. Now, moving to the next point, the key theoretical propositions. The behavioral geographers argue that more realistic models of human spatial activity can be constructed by incorporating more sophisticated assumptions about human psychology and cognition. If we understand how people actually perceive environments, process information, and make decisions, we can develop geographical theories accurately reflecting the human behavior in space. Now, this is a foundation of the behavioral geography here. What this particular point is trying to say, we need to see it in quite detail here. The key theoretical propositions. Okay, number one, the human psychology and the human cognition. Human psychology, it is very much subjective. We will talk about it later. But what is human cognition? What are cognitive skills? What is cognition? Can anyone answer here? What is cognition or what is cognitive skill? Can anyone answer? Or beliefs, thoughts? Okay. Have you heard about the cognitive skills? Have you heard about the cognitive skills? Okay. Cognitive skill is like when I ask you certain question, like what is 2 square plus 3 square plus 4 square. You will give me an answer, but that is 4 plus 9 plus 16. This is almost equal to 29. So your answer will be 29 here. This is a kind of a cognition where we call this type of cognition as uh, logical logical cognition. Okay, the cognitive ability. You see that the paper 2 of UPSC, that is CSAT, common the civil services aptitude test. And if you have attempted cat is that is common aptitude test. Okay, so this type of skills that we have, okay, we all every one of us have, that to solve a particular problem. So that is a cognitive skill. Now this cognitive skill, it has two kind of things here. One is the aptitude and second is the emotion. So these are the two skills which any person requires to solve any particular problem. For example, you have 100 rupees. Okay, now you have certain amount of money. You have three options here. You can invest this 100 rupees to make it 200. Second option, you can spend this 100 rupees and you can experience something with respect to other food, or you can take certain clothes, or you can visit certain place, or you can use this 100 rupees to lend it to your friend. You can give this money to your friend so that your friend can use it for their own benefit. So here we have something which is an aptitude and the emotional aspect here. So these are the part of the cognitive skills. Okay, these are the part of the cognitive skills. So human cognition, it is very much we can say personal. It differs from person to person. That what is this cognition? Cognition is basically the understanding and processing. Understanding and processing what? So understanding and processing of information. Understanding and processing of information. So this is the human, we can say that this is the part of the human cognition, okay, where we take certain decisions. That decisions can be accurate, it can be accurate, inaccurate, it can be right, it can be wrong also. Okay, so this is a part of the human psychology and the cognition here. Okay, now this is one part. If we understand how people actually perceive environments, process information, and make decisions, we can develop geographic theories accurately reflecting human behavior in space. Now, in the second part of that particular line, it is saying that the human environment. Now, under behavioral geography, you might have heard a concept of mental map. Okay, you might have heard about a concept of mental map where we have a particular environment, and here we have a man. What is the perception of this man? The perceiving of this environment by this man. Okay, so this will actually result, or this will define the behavior of that man towards the environment. This particular condition where we perceive an environment, this is called as mental map. It is also called as cognitive map. There is one disclaimer for this mental map or the cognitive map. ये जितने आसानी से लिखा हुआ गया है, ये समझने के लिए उतना आसान नहीं है. This is very much complicated because this is very highly subjective. Why it is subjective? For example, there is a person or there is a child, we can say here, who is poor. That child or that person, okay, I'm changing here from poor to a farmer. There is a person who is a farmer. बहुत ज्यादा लैंड नहीं है, just 2 acres of land is there. Okay, this farmer, we will see that he grows certain crops, he earns certain money. But what we see here, that that particular farmer, he reveres his farms because that farm is giving certain income, that farm is feeding his family, therefore he reveres that farms. In the number two part, we have a industrialist. Okay, that industrialist buys a patch of land, okay, for example 10 acres. Now this 10 acres of land, this is just bought from a subject of profit motive. Either he does farming, or he sets up industry, or he does certain other activities like warehousing, which is a kind of a service. So all these things we see here, they are from the perception of the earning certain income, but it will be capped by this industrialist until it is providing certain income. He will be keeping the farm. But if it undergoes into loss, then that industrialist, he will sell this agricultural land. But this farmer here, in any case, will not sell the land under the profit motive. Yes, there can be certain circumstances under which the farmer can sell the land, but as we can see in the India that 86% of farmers, they have marginal land farming here, that is less than 2 hectares of land. So it is still present under the we can say the behavior of farmers that they do not want to sell their land because they have certain reverence reverence for their land. They have certain attachment for their land. They have certain mental map for their land. Okay. One set of people, that is a farmer, they have a different experience or a mental map for their farmland. And the industrialist, he has a different mental map for their similar farmland here. So therefore, what we see that this becomes quite important for the geographers to understand that what people perceive their environment to be. Okay, what how people perceive their environment. Now this is an example which is from a farmland, but the same thing can be applied to the human beings, that is us, to the students, to the teachers, to the various sections of societies, that how they perceive their environment. Okay, so this is something which is quite important here. Now, Kenneth Boulding's model of human environment relationship. Boulding is an important geographer who is attached to the this geographical studies here. An economist and system theorist articulated a foundational model for understanding human environment interactions that profoundly influenced the geographic thought. His work emphasized that individuals do not respond directly to objective environments, but rather to their mental images of their environments. Okay, as we can see these two cases here, that is of a farmer and an industrialist, that in both the cases, both the farmers, both the person will have a different response to their environment. Okay, what environment we are saying here? The environment of farmer is majorly of the growing of crops, while the industrialist, it can be the varied activities. Okay, the image concept. Boulding argued that each person develops an image, a complex of beliefs, number one, the perceptions, number two, understandings about their environment. For example, beliefs, you can see the reference or the profit motive. It can be the feeding of the family, or it can be earning more income or making more investments. Then understanding about their environment. If I want to have good food, so I have to maintain my environment. I have to use organic farming methods here. But if my objective is more profit motive, so I will be trying to make my crop output more. I will be using more chemical fertilizers. So there are certain things that I am trying to understand about the environment, which is also defining my actions here. This image is constructed through sensory experiences, learning, and cultural transmission. Critically, the image exists in the individual's mind and may diverge significantly from objective reality. So this is an important point here. This image, that what I have, it will be only present inside my mind. Okay, number one thing. Number two thing, this may also diverge significantly from the objective reality. What is objective reality? Like all of us, what we think about a forest, like we think about a forest is a place where we have large number of trees. Okay, it have certain fruits, it provides certain fuel and fodder. Okay, then we will see that this forest, it is also maintaining the carbon stock of the world. They are also providing oxygen for us to breathe. Okay, so this is certain objective reality. But what I am taking out from that forest and what you are taking out from a forest, it can be different. Therefore, the objective reality of both of us, it can be different with respect to the same forest here. Now, what he specifies further, there is a dynamic bidirectional relationship here. The Bolding's insight was revolutionary. The relationship between people and the environment is dynamic and the bidirectional. People's image shape their behavior towards the environment, number one, and their behavior modifies the environment, which produces new sensory experiences and revised images. This point is number two. In this condition, what we are seeing that the man is perceiving the environment. Okay. Now, the environmental picture is changed and it is defining the behavior. Now, what is being done here? The human's actions, it is modifying the environment. Okay. Because of the modification here, the behavior it is also changing, and the perception here is it is also changed with respect to the change in the picture. So this was the picture one. Now the modified picture, it is changed. So this concept here, it is specifying that these conditions are very much dynamic in nature. This is a bidirectional framework which is being studied here. Now, in first conditions, I have farmer where the rainfall is good in that region. Okay. And the crop productivity is so good that he can feed the family and he can earn certain income out of it. But in the next case, was what happens? There is a drought which have undergone for 2 years. So for 2 years, there is no food, there is no income, and we will see that the government subsidy or the government support, it is not enough for that family to survive. Therefore, in such case where the outcome from the same land it declined, this will result into a condition where the mental map of that farmer with respect to the land, it will change. This will change here. Okay, for example, I can give you live case study. One of my relative, they have vast patch of land, okay, nearby only, and they used to have sweet lime. Sweet lime is called as mosambi. So before almost 7 to 8 years from now, they have planted the mosambi plant, and at that time there was the demand for mosambi or sweet lime. It was more than that of the oranges. But right now, situation has changed. The demand of the Mosambik or the sweet lime has declined, and the demand for the oranges have increased. Why? How? It is the market dynamics. So because of this, what have happened? They are taking out all the Mosambik plants and they are trying to uh, do the different farming activities over the same land. Why? Because here the demand has declined, the income has declined. Okay, so overall, what the inputs have been given to that particular land or for the output of that particular crop, it is declining. So this has changed the mental map with respect to the plant, that is sweet lime, and now they are also moving towards the oranges. So this is something which is very much important for us to understand, that this mental perception, it can change, or this mental map or mental image, this can change in future. Now, the three environment framework, that is drawing on Boulding's work, Dr. Proteus developed a comprehensive framework distinguishing three environment levels. Number one, phenomenal environment, the objectivity existing physical reality, that is buildings, landforms, climate, and vegetation. So these are phenomenal. Uh, in the previous lecture, we have discussed about phenomena and noumena. Were you clear with that particular things or concepts, or you have certain doubt over them? Phenomena and noumena, those things were clear, or you have doubt over them? cleared. Okay. So what we will see here that phenomena is something which every one of us is seeing from the same perception. Like a building is building for you and me. The landform is same, like a V-shaped valley, a U-shaped valley, a karst topography, or a wave cut platform. It is same for you and for me also. Okay, so this is something which is a part of the phenomenal environment. But there is also personal environment. Personal environment is what the individually perceived images of that phenomenal environment filtered through personal experiences and psychology. Okay. Now, to understand this part here, what we can see, uh, where you are from, Urmila, which city you are from? Are you from Delhi? If you are from Delhi, okay, you don't need to take the name of your city. If you are not from Delhi, you can say no. But if you have visited Delhi, you can say yes. Okay, you are from Odisha. Okay. Now, let's look at one condition. Odisha I have visited just once, okay, in my particular lifetime. So I have visited Rourkela. So an industrial city, a developing city that is. Now what we will see here that we have certain images of certain buildings. For example, in your village, if you have certain structure, like you have a school, you have certain your individual image. If you have 5 to 10 of your friends, so if you discuss about your school, you will see that you have a different we can say view of that school, different perception. Your friend might have a different perception, your other friend might have different perception for that school. If you have certain bakery in your village, then you will see that you have a different perception for that particular bakery, your friends will have a different perception for that particular bakery. In the next part, if there is a temple, so there is a different perception of everyone with respect to the temple. Okay, so here what we see that for the same phenomenal environment which is objective for everyone, but because of our experiences, our individual experiences, there is a personal environment is created with all those structures there. For example, if you will go to the temple, you will always go to that particular place where you find more peaceful. You will always sit there. You will always talk to those people who you find very good to interact with. You will always visit the same bakery where you find the food very good, very much satisfying. The food might not be very much satisfying, but the people you interact with, it makes a difference. The experience you get from the visiting that place, it is quite personal for you. It can be good for you, but it can be very much different for your students or your family members. So this is something where a personal experiences is created and which actually impacts our psychology. So this is an important part with respect to personal experiences. Number three, the contextual environment. Okay, before moving forward, we have a visiting friend here. You can say your name and you can specify where you're from because you are coming and going. So I can say that in this particular chat box. So it's not an issue. You can provide your details, certain details, because I should also be knowing who of my friends who are watching this lecture here. Okay, like Urmila. Okay, moving forward, the contextual environment. The broader cultural, religious, social, and institutional context shaping how individuals interpret their phenomenal experiences. So, in this part here, we will see that this is something which is more, we can say it is more one step ahead of the personal environment. The personal environment is something which I'm experiencing, but the contextual part here, it is becoming more broader. Like culture, if I talk about, then what are the language, what are the food, what are the clothes, okay, what traditional practices we follow, okay, religious, what are the different religions, what is the, we can say, the setup of that particular region with respect to the religion, that is the dominant religion, the minority religion, the multiple religion, or the no religion also. Then social aspect, what is the strata of society, what kind of society is there, what social norms are followed, what social norms are not followed. So all these things, they are being defined in that contextual environment, which is making it different from the phenomenal and the personal environment, which is a context, okay, which is a context based basically. So here this is also influencing the individual's interpretation of the phenomenal experiences. Now this contextual environment, what it is not something which is very much experienced, but it is something which is defined by a certain set of people. For example, there might be a certain building in your village or your locality where people say that you should not be visiting those buildings often, okay, you should not go to those place often. So you listen to them, but you have a certain desire to go to that place and experience what is different in this place, what is different in this building, what is different in this people, that why people are saying that you should not be going to that region, okay, or vice versa. There might be certain areas where people should say you should often go there, and you have you haven't went there till now. So there is a kind of a desire for you to go to that place and experience that place, what is there, what is different there. So this is a personal experience which you have not gone through, but there is something which you want to experience. So this is a contextual environment which is set by the society or people or the particular mental map or is created here, but it is not experienced. फॉर एग्जाम्पल एक बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ मैं। जैसे आपको कोई बताएगा कि आप किसी को कहेंगे कि वी आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर यूपीएससी एग्जामिनेशन, तो वो जो आपको जो सामने से जो रिस्पॉन्स आएगा, ओके यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर यूपीएससी एग्जामिनेशन, ओके, आप दिल्ली क्यों नहीं चले जाते? आप दिल्ली जाके प्रिपेयर करो, वहाँ पे बहुत अच्छे टीचर्स है, बहुत अच्छे रिसोर्सेस है, एंड एवरीथिंग इज वेरी गुड देयर। सो आपके अंदर एक जिज्ञासा और आपके अंदर एक पर्टिकुलर वो पार्ट आ जाता है कि यस आई वांट टू आल्सो गो टू दिल्ली, मुझे वहाँ पे रह के प्रिपेयर करना है, मुझे वहाँ पे चीजें एक्सपीरियंस करनी है। दिस इज वन पार्ट। सेकेंड पार्ट, आप एक्चुअली दिल्ली पहुंच गए, आप एक्चुअली वहां पे रहना शुरू कर लिया आपने, या तो या तो आप ओआरएन चले गए, या तो आप पटेल नगर चले गए। सो you started to live in that environment and you now experience that thing what you were hearing about। तो यहाँ आने के बाद आपको लगा कि यार यहाँ पे तो बहुत ज्यादा कुछ डिफरेंस नहीं है, घर पे भी सेम चीज ही हो रही थी, यहाँ पे भी सेम चीज हो रही है, ओके। पहले ये था कि हमें एक पर्टिकुलर कोचिंग में जाना पड़ता था, वहां पे जाके हमें इंटरेक्शन करना पड़ता था, पता करनी पड़ती थी चीजें चीजें लाइब्रेरीज में जाके जो बुक्स होती थी उन्हें देखना पड़ता था। बट आज के टाइम पे वी हैव डिजिटल प्रेजेंस, वी हैव दिस क्लासेस, फॉर एग्जांपल जो मेरी क्लास है, दिस इज ऑनलाइन, इट इज टोटली फ्री। आपको 50,000 60,000 रुपये नहीं खर्च करना है, आपका ये टोटल अमाउंट सेव हो जाता है यहाँ पे। हाँ, दैट इज वन थिंग दैट आई एम चार्जिंग फॉर द डेली आंसर राइटिंग एंड फॉर द टेस्ट सीरीज। वाई? बिकॉज फॉर दैट आई हैव टू, और मेरी टीम जो है यहाँ पे उन्हें वर्क करना पड़ता है, एंड दे हैव टू वर्क फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर पार्ट, तो उनकी सैलरीज उनसे बन जाती है। सो देयरफॉर डेली आंसर राइटिंग एंड टेस्ट सीरीज के लिए मैं चार्ज करता हूँ। अपार्ट फॉर दैट, ये जो टीचिंग है, जो मेरा पार्ट है, दिस आई एम डूइंग इट फॉर कम्प्लीटली फ्री हियर। सो दिस इज समथिंग कि आप दिल्ली पहुंचे, आपने एक्सपीरियंस किया, आपने कहा कि this is not even contributing 5 to 10% of what I was doing in my home. तो यहाँ पे there is a difference between what is the perception of the environment, what is the contextual environment. अब आप वहां पे रह के देखे, जिसने आपको बताया था वो वहां जाके दिल्ली में रहा नहीं था, उन्होंने तैयारी नहीं की थी, बट आपने वहां रह के देखा, आपने देखा कि यहाँ पे कंडीशंस हैव चेंज्ड, द एनवायरनमेंट हैज चेंज्ड हियर. सो आप वहाँ पे एक पर्टिकुलर कोर्स को कंप्लीट करते हो एंड आप वापस अपने घर आके फिर वहां से तैयारी करते हो, बिकॉज हियर you do not want to live in that particular environment, because what environment you were getting in Delhi, now you can get it in online forums. Okay, you can get it over the Telegram. You can get the same material at a lower cost in the digital format. Okay, so this is something where we see that the context also changes over the environment. Now, the Proteus critical insight, what it was. The individual decisions result from the interaction of these three environmental levels कि phenomenal होगा, personal होगा, and उसके बाद फिर वो contextual बनेगा. Two people experiencing identical phenomenal environments may construct entirely different personal environments if their contextual backgrounds differ, leading to different spatial behaviors. Okay, तो ये एक important part बन जाता है. आप है और आपका फ्रेंड है, सेम कॉलेज, सॉरी सेम विलेज, सेम स्कूल, सेम वी कैन से सेम कोर्स, सेम स्टडी, सब कुछ आपने सेम किया है, बट आपका आपके स्कूल को लेके सोचना, आपके फ्रेंड का आपके स्कूल को लेके सोचना, आप जो वर्क कर रहे हो उसको लेके सोचना, इट कैन बी वेरी मच डिफरेंट एंड इट कैन बी वेरी मच कॉन्ट्रास्टिंग ऑल्सो. वाई? बिकॉज आपका आपके एनवायरमेंट का परसेप्शन एंड आपके फ्रेंड का आपके एनवायरमेंट का परसेप्शन, इट कैन डिफर टू अ वेरी हाई लेवल ऑल्सो. ओके, सो ये वाला पार्ट यहाँ पे जो प्रोटेस है, उन्होंने इस चीज को, ही हैव हाईलाइटेड दिस पार्ट इन अ वेरी क्रिटिकल फॉर्मेट. नाउ there are certain objectives for the behavioral geography. Behavioral geography के certain objects हैं, objectives हैं which are almost 5 years. The behavioral geographers established explicit research objectives transcending mere criticism of the predecessor paradigm. अब यहाँ क्या हुआ कि behavioral geographers, instead of just criticizing the previous paradigm, that was first was the areal differentiation, then after that was the quantitative revolution. So instead of just criticizing them, they have given other objectives, okay, for the behavioral geography. Ki how should behavioral geography look like? How should behavioral geography feel like? So, number one, इसमें जो objectives थे, objective number one, developing realistic models of the humanity, or developing realistic models of humanity rather than the economic man of quantitative geography or the psychological automation of some earlier approaches. Behavioral geographers sought models of humanity incorporating bounded rationality, incomplete information processing, and number three, goal heterogeneity. ये इन तीन चीजें, these three things are important for a person for the realistic models. Okay, number one point is the bounded rationality. That person can be rational, but that rationality is bounded. किस चीज से बाउंड है? That is the information that person is having. Okay, now आई हैव सर्टेन डिजिटल नॉलेज, तो मैं डिजिटल मार्केटिंग का कुछ काम कर सकता हूँ, डिजिटल प्रोडक्ट्स के कुछ काम कर सकता हूँ. आई हैव सर्टेन नॉलेज ऑफ वेब डिजाइनिंग, आई हैव सर्टेन नॉलेज ऑफ सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट, तो मैं उन चीजों पे वर्क कर सकता हूँ. बट इन्हीं चीज को अगर मुझे किसी एक पर्टिकुलर प्रोजेक्ट पे अप्लाई करना है, सो दैट थिंग विल बी क्वाइट रीड, वी कैन से दैट विल बी लिमिटेड फॉर मी. देयर विल बी सर्टेन इनकम्प्लीट इंफॉर्मेशन विथ मी, कुछ इनकम्प्लीट इंफॉर्मेशन होगा. सो उस पर्टिकुलर कारण से, बिकॉज ऑफ दिस रीजंस, द इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोसेसिंग मेरा एंड इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोसेसिंग ऑफ द अदर पर्सन, या तो मेरा ही कोई पार्टनर है, आई हैव अ पार्टनर, मी एंड माय पर्सन's गोल कैन बी डिफरेंट ऑल्सो. ओके, तो दो we want to achieve something, but our goals can be quite heterogeneous also in this particular part. Okay, number two, understanding subjective environments. Now, this is an important part with respect to the behavioral aspect here. By examining how individuals perceive and evaluate their environments, behavioral geographers sought to identify the psychological and social dimensions determining the decision making. And decision making is a very important process, okay, which is basically defined by what environment you have lived in. This required developing rigorous methods, extracting and analyzing subjective mental experiences. For example, I have one group of person and I have another group of person. Okay, these two group of person, they are living in a coastal area. In the coastal area, there are various kinds of disaster and hazards. For example, there can be cyclones, there can be we can say the cloud burst, there can be drought, there can be flooding. So different kind of we can say that different kind of disasters can happen here. Now, group 1 have been trained extensively that what actions you have to take whenever there is a particular kind of disaster. Group 2, they are not trained, but they are just informed that what actions they have to take and what actions they will be taking during a particular kind of disaster, but they have not been trained extensively. So under this part, what we will see here, that the two groups behavior, the group number one behavior and the group number two behavior, they will be very much different from each other. Group one, they will be doing certain steps very systematically. Yes, there will be certain deviations also, but they will be having a very, uh, we can say that a very systematic steps for coming for overcoming that the consequences of the disaster. But group two, they will be suffering a lot because the people who are present in this group two, they will be taking a lot of assumptions, okay, about the steps that they have to take and the decisions which is taken by the group in this group 2, the people in the group 2, they will be highly varied. There will be very high variation in the decisions which is made by the people in the group 2, whereas the decisions which will be made by group 1, yes, there will be certain minor, we can say that the minor variations, but most of the decisions they will be aligned. Okay, they will be aligned together. So this is something which we see that we need to understand the subjective environment which the people are undergoing through and they are living in to understand their actions and decision making. Number three, the methodological innovation. The behavioral geographers recognize that standard quantitative and statistical methods designed to analyze objective spatial patterns proved inadequate for studying the subjective mental construct. Okay. Now, for example, I have designed a form to understand the problems of geography optional for UPSC aspirants. Okay, I've designed this form and this form I have distributed. I have taken hundreds of parameters, variables in that form, that what they are facing difficulty in, which subject they like the most, at to what level they find difficulty, what are the topics where they find difficulty. So I have taken hundreds of parameters and hundreds of things. I have designed this form. But what I will see in the real condition, that when I am looking at the form of one person to another person, there will be certain issues. We can say that there can be certain things which are still missed. Okay, because under the comment section, what they will provide me the extra information, that extra information, it will be very much different for every individual. Okay, so this point here we see that the methodological innovation which is done by the behavioral geography, it is very much important to understand the mental construct of the individuals who are facing problems or whose perception to view a problem is different from one person to another. Thus, They developed a diverse methodological approaches, including the mental mapping, the ranking procedures, the cognitive mapping, and the decision making analysis, that how the people came to a particular decision. Okay, so this is something where we see that this is the third, we can say that the third objective of the behavioral geography. Then number four, the interdisciplinary integration, psychology, sociology, anthropology, and cognitive sciences offered theories and methods geographers adapted to spatial context. This interdisciplinary engagement enriched geographic theory while making geography more relevant to the other social sciences. So, because of the inclusion of these uh, interdisciplinary, we can say subjects here, which also makes behavioral geography as neo-positivist. Therefore, behavioral geography is also called as neo-positivist in its approach. Then, number five, the primary data generation. Okay, this is also one of the subset of the quantitative revolution where we are looking at the data. So, whenever you're writing answer, you have to keep a watch on your answer that under the behavioral geography, you have to say that it included various quantitative tools. It was pro-positivistic. It was not against the positivistic, as was the radical and the humanistic. Okay, so here the subjective part is also included and the objective part is also included to make the human decision making better here. So the behavioral geographers systematically collected original data about the human behavior through interviews, questionnaires, observations, and experimental studies rather than relying on aggregate census data or laboratory experiments detached from the real world context. Okay, so this is one thing, that is the data correct generation was collected in person from the person who was undergoing a specific problem or issue or finding difficulty in decision making. Okay, now next section is major theorists and their contributions for the behavioral geography. Now, under the behavioral geography, we will see certain geographers like Gilbert White and the Hazard research. Okay, number one, important. Gilbert White, we will see that 1911 to 2006 is recognized as the pioneer of behavioral approaches in geography. Now, what he studied majorly, he used to observe people that during a flood condition, okay, I will explain it like this. During a flood condition in a particular region, in a particular region, this is a river, this is the flood bank. Okay, here we have certain settlements of the people who are also certain at certain time they are coinciding. So here what we see that whenever the flood occurred, the people response, it was varied. How it varied? This varied because of their personal experiences. For example, certain families who have seen death in their family member, they used to just move out, okay, of the floodplain region. But in second case, the families who have seen that their agricultural loss or infra loss is high, but they have not seen the death in the family, they were trying to gather merchandise which will help them for survival. So here we see that the two groups, okay, the two kind of people, there can be multiple kind of people here also. But these two people, their decision with respect to the moving out of the area during the flood regions and the people who have not seen the death in the family, they were trying to take up various things which will help them for the survival. This is a two different kind of activity. For example, if you are present in that region and you are seeing these two activities, you will be very much astonished at how this is come so. The people should always be moving out, but how this is like they have a different responses here. So this is something which we see. It is very much we can say this is very much subjective here, and it is based on the experiences which is done by the people then. So though he emerged from the physical geography rather the human geography in a proper way, in 1945, White completed his dissertation, that is, human adjustment to the floods, establishing the intellectual foundations for the behavioral geography decades before the term was formally coined. So here we can see that in 1945, this was the period of the quantitative. This was also a previous period of the quantitative revolution. Quantitative revolution came after 1945. This was the period of the we can say areal differentiation when this particular study was being done, which was related to the behavioral geography. Number two, the revolutionary insights. White observed that people's response to the natural flood hazards differed dramatically even when exposed to identical objective risk. How? Some flood-prone communities relocated preemptively while others remained despite repeated inundation. Some farmers adopted drought-resistant crops while others continued traditional practices. This variation could not be explained through objective risk assessment alone. It reflected how individuals perceived, evaluated, and responded to that particular hazard. So here the what we can see that the individual perception, the individual mental image, the individual cognitive image, it was very much important to understand to see that how this particular characteristics were or this particular decisions were being made. Okay, number three, the theoretical framework. The theoretical framework here. White's approach suggested that hazard response depends upon the perceived risk rather than actual probability. Individuals develop mental models of risk based on personal experiences, cultural narratives, and available informations. This risk perceptions, though sometimes at variance with actuality, reality, actuarial reality, genuinely structurized the hazard response behavior. So this was something, the behavior, whatever the response was being seen here, it was based on the personal experience of that particular individual or communities with respect to those particular floods there. Now, number five, legacy. White's hazard research established that behavioral approaches could address practical geographic problems. Okay, by understanding how people perceived and evaluated environmental risks, planners could more effectively design policies and interventions. This pragmatic decision linking behavioral theory to policy relevance distinguished White's approach and enhanced behavioral geography's credibility also. So what we can identify here that what people used to see their problems. Okay, if a flood occurs, what problems can arise? The problem will arise with respect to the water flooding. Then there will be accumulation of water. Then there can be, we can say, the destruction of the crops. Then there can be certain issues with respect to the health. So how many people they can identify with the list of problems which we see in this particular steps here, that will define that what their responses will be. And these responses, they were actually collected, they were basically taken into one particular we can say as a data, and they were used as a part of the legacy which is currently also used by the various individuals. When we will be understanding the environmentalism, when we'll be understanding not environmentalism but environmental geography, we will be again coming to this disaster and hazard vulnerability part here. There we will be understanding that how these we can say the disaster and hazard we can say overcoming, how it is actually working, and how it is different from region to region, how it is different from culture to culture, how it is different from developed country to a developing country also, and what is the current paradigm, it will also be seen there. Okay. Next important we can say important theorist we have, that is Robert Beck and the bounded rationality. Robert Beck, we will see that he was building on Herbert Simon's pioneering work in organizational decision making. So Herbert Simon, we will see that he is one of the psychologists, important psychologists, who have worked on the bounded rationality part there. So he articulated a theory of bounded rationality fundamental to behavioral geography. In 1962, Beck developed a systematic scheme for studying the human decisions based on four revolutionary assumptions contradicting quantitative geography's rational actor model. Now, this is 1962. This we will say that this is a time period of quantitative revolution. Basically, quantitative revolution started to decline here, and there was started to development of the we can say the critical geographies have started to develop here. Number one, the bounded rationality. The individuals do not calculate optimal decisions. Instead, they satisfy seeking solutions that are good enough rather than optimal. Okay, this is something where we see that uh, how the decision is being calculated, how these decisions have been applied. So they are just good enough and they are not just optimal. So this is a decision making capability of a normal human being. This distinction proves crucial. Farmers do not necessarily maximize profit. They seek adequate income while minimizing risk and effort here. Okay, so this is one of the we can say one of the perception of a farmer. When we see it from the migrants perspective, migrants do not select destinations through exhaustive comparative analysis. They settle where information and opportunity align. Okay, so if the people are migrating from one region to another region, they if they hear that you can go to this region where you will find food, you will find good home to live, you will get better education, better health services. So these people, they will migrate to those particular region based on the information. Okay, based on the information and what opportunity they are getting in those region. Okay, number two, the habitual behavior. Okay, this is quite important. While individual decisions appear conscious and deliberative, habitual behavior emerges through repeated decision making. Okay, so this is something which we as a student, and I have been a UPSC aspirant, we are basically we are attached to this decision making. Okay, what happens that we want to read a newspaper first in the morning. Second thing, we need to read something new. Third thing, we need to write certain answers. Okay, we need to attempt certain MCQs. And number five, we need to revise what we have what we studied in that particular day. So if this behavior, this is repeated for 2 to 3 years, so this will become a habit. If I have certain extra task which is out of this habit, it will become so much burdensome for us, for me, or for you, that it will be something like we will not be able to do it. And similarly, when we are new to this preparation, then what habits we have been following in our past, it will actually actually stop us to form the new habits of this learning process. Okay, so after the series of conscious choices, individuals develop stereotype responses to similar situations, reducing cognitive burden here. Okay, so cognitive burden is reduced how? By the development of the behavior, by the development of the habit. So these habits though appearing mechanical, actually represent the learned adaptive strategies. Okay, so these are certain adaptive strategies which become a part of the behavior of us, which is repetitive in nature in various time periods. Okay, number three, information constraints. Complete information is impossible to obtain, and assimilation of even available information exceeds human cognitive capacity. Decision makers operate with incomplete information, imperfect knowledge, and cognitive limitations. These constraints fundamentally structure all real decisions. Okay, so here we can say that how the constraints are present in the information, and how this constraint it actually alters our decision making. Okay, for example, there is a prelims exam or there is a mains exam. I have taken certain decisions that this will be my approach to actually answer those questions. But I have taken first test. Under the first test, I did certain things which I was habitual to. And because of these particular habits which I have developed in time, I was able to attempt only 50% of what I have decided as a part of the decision making. Why 50% only? Because 50% was my old habits. To break this habit, I have to give a multiple attempt of questions. I have to understand what I am able to achieve and what I am not able to achieve. But after 10 or 15 or 20 tests, I am able to achieve 90% of decisions what I have thought of, what I will be doing in the real time examination. So in this way, we say that the test series are very important. The mains answer writing is very important. The daily answer writing is very important. Why it is so? Because every day we are forming a particular behavior of particular habit, and this change in habit, the change in decision making, this is actually helping us to move towards a higher score, which will actually result into our success in the UPSC examination. Okay, so this is something where we have the information constraint. Number four, the cultural evaluation criteria. Now, information evaluation proceeds according to culturally, historically, and experimentally determined criteria. Okay, now this you might have heard about the diffusion of information, the diffusion of culture. The same thing also applies here as the cultural evaluation criteria. What one culture considers relevant information, another ignores here. For example, you might have heard about local culture, universal religion, local religion, and a tribal religion. So all these three religions, we will see that they have certain beliefs, they have certain faiths, they have certain, we can say, a set of approaches to follow their religions. Okay, and in certain religions, there is a lot of things are considered absurd, but in the other religion, it is considered reverence. So what one generation values, other dismisses. Okay, most of the religion we will say that which are universal in nature, uh, they also have two things. One is the reverence of the idol, okay, and the non-reverence of idol. So idealism it is followed. For example, in Hinduism and Christianity, idealism is followed. But in Islam, idealism is prohibited. It is not followed. So there is something which is difference between Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. So these evaluative frameworks deeply embedded in culture and experience shape and which information influences the decisions. So this is an important part which is provided by the back here. Now, implications for geography of the Beck's work. Beck's framework suggested that geographical decision making, that is agricultural location, migration, shopping behavior, residential choice, reflects bounded rationality rather than economic optimization. Geographic patterns result not from objectively optimal decisions, but from satisfactory solutions achieved under information constraint through the culturally shaped evaluation criteria. So this is something which is provided by back here. Now, next important geographer here we have, that is the Julian Wolpert and the migration behavior. Julian Wolpert. Wolpert, we will see that he is one of an important geographer for the behavioral geography. So in 1969 is a post-quantitative revolution period. Research on agricultural labor productivity in Swedish farms represented a watershed moment in behavioral geography's development. His work provided empirical demonstration that behavioral approaches generated genuinely new geographic insights unavailable through the quantitative methods here. Okay. Now, he have given the productivity puzzle. Wolpert investigated why agricultural productivity in similar Swedish farms varied dramatically. Under this part, quantitative approach predicted productivity should depend on objective factors like number one, land quality, number two, climate, number three, capital investment, number four, technological access. Yet, identical objective conditions produced different outputs here. Okay, suggesting that farmers' decision making and effort levels, fundamentally psychological and social variables, significantly influence the productivity. So it was not just the physical factors, but it was also the cultural, psychological, social factors which have resulted into the decline, the variance in the productivity of the farmers over the same kind of land. This was termed as the bounded rationality. This was taken as one of the part of the bounded rationality. Wolpert concluded that farmers did not attempt maximizing profit through optimal input allocation. Instead, they made sequential, satisfactory decisions reflecting their finite abilities to perceive information, store knowledge, compute solutions, and predict outcomes. So this was something which was done by farmers on the individual basis. They were able to make certain decisions which were reflecting the whatever the information they have. For example, if certain information is more to certain farmers, they have better productivity. If certain information is lacking, the productivity is changing here. Thus, the socio-economic context, family circumstances, health, age, education shift aspiration levels, influencing efforts and investment decisions by the farmers. Now, this was basically used for the development of the migration theory development. This particular perspective, Wolpert have picked up, and Wolpert's subsequent research on migration behavior proved equally influential. Traditional gravity models. Okay, gravity models will be understanding in detail in the quantitative revolution. Predicted migration flows based on distance, population size, and wage differentials, treating migrants as responsive to objective spatial economic gradients. Wolpert recognized this missed fundamental dynamics here with respect to the migration, which was basically taking place on the basis of incomplete information. Now, how the sequential decision making developed here. Wolpert demonstrated that migration decisions involve sequential rather than simultaneous choices. Okay, so there it was in that step by step choices decisions were taken rather than one step and another bigger step. So there is a quite gap in the steps which has been taken up here. But Wolpert said that there is a step is being taken by the migrants from moving from one region to another. So first individual decide whether to migrate at all. A profoundly psychological decision involving dissatisfaction threshold and migration stress. So this because of the migration, they will be undergoing certain issues, certain stress. So these have to be taken into consideration. Only after deciding to migrate does the question of destination arise. माइग्रेशन का सोचा है लेकिन कहाँ जाना है ये नहीं सोचा है. These sequential choices involve different information, evaluation criteria, and constraints than aggregate models assume. Okay, वो पर्टिकुलर डिसीजन लेने के बाद कि हम माइग्रेशन करना है, there can be sequential choices. Okay, certain choices will be made over the sequence rather than just a single decision or choice which is defining their migration pattern and route. So for this next important part comes the place utilities. Wolpert introduced the concept of place utility. Okay, this place utility is a very important part. इसको आपको you make a star mark over this. The degree to which a location meets an individual's defined needs and aspirations. Okay, migration occurs when place utility at current location falls below the perceived utility everywhere. मान लो कि मैं आज नागपुर में रह रहा हूँ. ओके, इन नागपुर आई एम हैविंग सर्टेन इनकम. ओके, I have having a certain standard of life, quality of life. I have certain social interaction. But after a certain point of time, what will happen here? In case my income declines, or my social status declines, or my political powers decline, or if I'm not able to live a quality of life or a standard of living in Nagpur, so in that case, I will be migrating to certain other regions. Like if I can go to Delhi, I can go to Pune, I can go to Hyderabad, go to Bangalore, or I can go to other country also. So in this case, what I will be saying here that this particular condition where my individual, my utility in this place, the Nagpur's utility for me, it is declining or it is optimal. If it is declining, I will be bound to migrate. Okay, if it is good enough, I will be staying here. So critically we'll see the place utility depends on subjective evaluation and not objective characteristic. According to certain section of people, if I'm earning 30,000 in Nagpur, that will be enough. But if I will say that I want to earn at least 1 lakh a month, that will be quite good for me. So this is a very subjective point which I am putting here, which is defining my utility that this place is providing me utility to live or an opportunity to migrate. A location with the excellent wages may have low place utility if an individual values environmental quality or community ties are more highly. Okay. Now, if I was living in Delhi, I have lived in Delhi for almost around uh, 8 to 9 years. 9 years I have been in Delhi. Before that, I was in Mumbai. So here, what I will say that during the winter season, the harsh climate, okay, the we can say the very low sunlight presence during the winter season, the decline in health parameters. So these were certain conditions for me to migrate back to my original city. Okay. Also, we will see that there were other factors, but these were the certain primary factors which have been responsible for my back migration. Now, there had been certain collaborative contributions also for this working of, or the development of this particular behavioral aspect here. So working with the Reginald Golich, okay, Wolpert developed behavioral models of learning and habitual behavior in spatial decision making. They examined how individuals acquire spatial knowledge gradually, learning through experience to navigate cities and evaluate locations more effectively. With Stephen Brown, they developed methodological innovations for conducting behavioral spatial research. The Down Williamson's work on information flows complemented these efforts, showing that decisions depend critically on what information is available, how it is conveyed, and how individuals interpret it. So this is Don Williamson's work, which have highly worked on the information aspect, that how information availability, information conveyance, and information interpretation defines a decision of a particular individual in a particular circumstances. Okay. After this comes a very important person, that is the Peter Gold, who has given the concept of the mental map to us here. Peter Gold contributions to the behavioral geography centered on the mental maps. Okay, the map we have which we have created in the earlier part, that is a mental map. He represents of a perceived geographical space. Okay, that is mental map is a representation of a perceived geographical space. Though the term mental map was basically given by Woolridge in 1956, Gold popularized it and developed its theoretical and methodological significance systematically. Foundational concept. What is the foundation? We have already seen it. Mental maps are representative of perceived space, how individuals and groups imagine their geographic world. Okay, the environment is now similar to the geographic world. These maps differ from objective catastrophic representation because they reflect subjective valuations, emotional attachments, and differential awareness here. They reveal how people actually think about the geographic space, not how space objectively exists. The place where I'm living, it can be a very good place. It is a good place, but my subjective reality of the place, it can differ. I can find it very good. I can also find it very bad also. I want to migrate to certain other places just because other places quite we can say it is more attractive psychologically to me than my place, therefore I want to migrate to that place. So for this he has given a ranking procedure. What is ranking procedure? Gold developed the ranking order procedure as a method extracting mental map empirically. Respondents rank places, cities, regions, and countries according to the criteria like places I would like to live, places of economic opportunity. By aggregating rankings across individuals, researchers create maps showing collective place preferences, surfaces, and spatial patterns of attractive and unattractive locations. So, the region I want to live and the region where I will be having good economic opportunity, these two things can be very different because the set of skills that we have acquired, they can be different in providing us the knowledge, the providing us the income, and providing us certain good quality of life in a particular place. It can vary here. So this was decided by the ranking procedure. Then geographic applications of this gold's research revealed that places preferences, while partly reflecting objective characteristics, reflect complex subjective evaluations. Young professionals rated city offering career opportunity and cultural amenities most highly, regardless of climate or natural beauty. For example, uh, in Maharashtra, we have very high affinity for going to Mumbai and work there because the economic opportunity that Mumbai provides, it is not similar or almost at the same level is present in Nagpur. But here we see that the climate of Nagpur, okay, the natural beauty of Nagpur, and a lot of things which are present in Nagpur. The ease of living in Nagpur, it is very high. But because of the career opportunities, a lot of people migrate to Pune and Mumbai every year. Certain retirees, they perform warm, low-cost locations with established communities. Now, many of my seniors who have worked in Mumbai for almost 35 years, now they have most of them have retired. So after retiring, they are not living in that particular place where they used to live while working. Now they have shifted to the countryside. Okay, they are moved to the region where the villages are present. The air is quite, we can say, more fresh. The pollution levels are very low. They have a very peaceful conditions and scenarios there. So the retirees, when we go to a particular age, we want solace. Okay, we do not want chaos. So to find solace, they are migrating back to certain regions where they can have a better quality peace and those conditions which actually help them to live a proper life there. So families sought suburban locations balancing school, safety, and space. Okay. For example, in the region of Delhi, you will find right now that the region of Ghaziabad, Vaishali, or Gurgaon and Noida. So they are having very high migration. Why? Because the living conditions present there with respect to the high-rise building, the presence of schools, the presence of basic amenities, it is very high and good there as compared to the people who are actually living in Delhi with respect to the pollution, the availability of water, the availability of electricity, and lot of things are comparable there. So these preferences variation correspond to life stage differences and value systems, demonstrating that mental map reflects who people are, not just objective environmental characteristics. So we are not just looking at the objective environmental characteristics, but it is reflecting who actually people are and how their decisions are actually based. Okay. Next is three fundamental assumptions which were made by Gold mental map. First is people possesses environmental images. So inside our mind, we have a particular image of the environment which we have inside it, and no one can say it directly until and unless it is taken out by a specific set of questions. Number two, these images can be identified accurately by the researchers. How? By the ranking method, structured interviews, and the cognitive mapping here. Then strong relationship also exists between the environmental images and actual behavior. Now, what images inside my mind, it will actually define that what my behavior will be toward this particular environment, where I will be living in that place, where I will be migrating, what resources I am getting, what income I am getting, what kind of quality of life I'm experiencing, what things are good and what are bad. So all these things, they are forming my actions. They are seen in my actions. Here, the David Downs, he has given a conceptual framework. David Downs extended Gold's work by developing a comprehensive conceptual framework. Down recognized that information from the objective environment is filtered through the perceptual processes, producing mental images that determine behavior. Critically, perceptual filtering is not random. Systematic factors, cultural background, personality, prior experiences, and information exposures influence what individuals perceive and how they interpret the sensory input. Okay, so in this condition, what we are saying that how our perception will be. Okay, this perceptual process, it will be seen, it will be filtered, and it will be uh, what information I am gathering every day. They will actually change my the perception. They will see my information how it is changing with respect to the time here. Then, because of this part, there are two approaches to the mental mapping. Mental mapping have been developed here. Number one, it is the structural approach. Structural approach examines what spatial information people store in memory and use in daily activities. Okay, so memory में क्या है, हम क्या चीजें daily कर रहे हैं. So that is a structural approach. एक structure बन गया, एक habit, one habit is created. We will wake up in the morning, we'll brush the teeth, we'll take a shower, we'll eat the breakfast, we'll go to the temple, and we will do certain rituals. So these are certain rituals which we do every day, and it is structured now. How do residents mentally organize city layouts? What landmarks do travelers remember? How do farmers conceptually organize agricultural information? This approach maps the content of the spatial knowledge here, that is the space knowledge. Number two, that is the evaluative approach. It examines what factors people consider important about locations and how they weight the factors and decisions. Now, if I want to travel, so what places I will try to travel here? Number one, I can go to the beaches. Number two, I can go to the mountains. Number three, I can go to desert. Number four, I can go to a forest. Number five, I can go to a coastal area. Okay. Uh, Number six, I can go to a historical place. Number six, I can go to the religious place. Number seven, I can go to a certain places where there is just nothing. Okay, the people are not present there. It is just we can say just it is me and my environment is present there. So what things I want, it is very much subjective in this particular part here. So what makes place attractive or unattractive, where I want to go and where I don't want to go. So these both things are taken up as a part here. So how do people balance multiple location criteria? How this approach reveals the evaluative frameworks guiding the decisions. So this is seen as a part of the evaluative approach. Now, cognitive mapping. As behavioral geography matured, mental mapping evolved toward the cognitive mapping. Okay, so here we can see that the mental map, it moved towards the cognitive map. Okay, It is basically a branch of psychology examining cognitive processes enabling people to acquire, code, store, recall, and manipulate information. Geographic cognitive mappings examines how people build mental models of space, learning to navigate effectively, understand distance relationships, and evaluate locations. Okay, so this is one of the part which is seen as a part of the geographic cognitive mapping. Storage linkages developed between the behavioral geographers and cognitive psychologists, enriching both the discipline. So, in a particular, for example, I have this region 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so these are six regions where I have a different communities who are experience same kind of environment in these six regions. So I will like to understand the psychology of the people, the decision making of the people, their perception with respect to the environment, their what information they have, though it may be limited, majorly it is limited with respect to their environment, and the other places which they perceive good or bad. So these six regions, okay, here I am trying to study them. I am trying to study their behavior. I am trying to study the cognitive psychology of these people, so that the decision making of all the six region it can be made better while to live in that region or to leave that region and go to another region and have a better life or a we can say a utility less utility life there. Now here comes another important geographer, that is the Torsten Hagerstrand and his concept of time geography. Okay, this is very important with respect to the behavioral geography. Torsten Hagerstrand, who lived from 1916 to 2004, a Swedish geographer renowned for the innovation diffusion research, developed time geography in the 1960s, an approach fundamentally reshaping the behavioral geography scope and the sophistication. Now, let's understand this concept in detail. Now, what here we will see that what Hagerstrand has seen here that, for example, I have a place here. I'm currently present in this location. This location is one. Okay. Now, this is location two. I want to go to this location two. And this is location three. Now, what I will see here that I, the perception of my perception towards location two and location three, it will decide it will decide that how much time it will take for me to reach that particular location. If I like to visit location 2, okay, if I like to visit the location 2, if it is of 10 minutes, I can be there in 9 minutes also because I like it. Okay, but in case of location 3, which I don't like, it will take me 2 hours also just to cover a distance of just 30 minutes time. So it can take 2 hours also. It can be a situation that I never reach there in a complete day. So this is one of the condition that I might not be reaching or I will be reaching late in the location 3. So this is one of the thing where my time or my distance, it is also determined by my perception to a particular location. So this was one thing which was defined by the Hagerstrand. So Hagerstrand in the central insight, what he has said that Hagerstrand recognized that human activity occurs simultaneously in space and time, which is quite true. Then, individual behavior cannot be understood by examining space alone. Temporal dimensions prove prove equally critical. He asked, given that humans have limited time and must allocate it among the competing activities, how do spatial and temporal constraints structure human activity patterns? So what he says here, the space-time paths and prisons. In Haggerstrand framework, individual trace paths through space and time, sequence of locations they occupy at successive moments. These paths result from individual pursuing projects, activities with temporal duration, while subject to three categories of constraint. Okay, constraint number one, the capability constraint. Psychology and technological limitations on human activity. Humans require sleep, food, rest, biological necessities, consuming time. Okay, so this is one thing. Transportation, speed limits how far individuals can travel in available time. Working hours constrained activity scheduling. For example, a farm work cannot work 24 hours daily. Biological necessity enforce rest period, structuring labor activity, especially and temporarily. Okay, so this is capability constraint that a human being cannot work for 24 hours. Like UPSC aspirants cannot study for what it is perceived like 17, 18 hours. Okay, it is just like 8 to 10 hours. It is optimum for an aspirant. Okay, because personal time is also required, biological time is required, mental time is also required, me time, what it is called in the contemporary time, it is also important here. Number two, coupling the constraints required that specific individuals and groups assemble at particular places and time. Number one. Number two, school schedules couple children and teachers. They must be present simultaneously. Family meals couple family members. For example, there are certain things which couple a lot of things. Like when you are going to a movie, you normally not go alone. You go either with your family or your friends. When you are eating, you are having meal. Either your family or friends, they are collectively having that meal. Okay, so this is particularly providing us a condition where something is not done individually. It is covered coupled with other things also. Business meetings require participant presence also here. These coupling constraints create hierarchies of obligation. Some constraints, which can be biological necessity, are inescapable, while others, that is social commitments, involve negotiations. Okay, so this is something which is not done individually, but we need someone to do with us. Number three, authority constraints. Institutional and legal rules restricting who may be where at particular times. Workplace access restrict to employees. Business hours limit shopping. Prison inmates cannot move freely. Authority constraints reflect power relationship who decide whether particular individuals can access particular places. So where you were what you are doing right now, are you constrained by any kind of authority? For example, you are studying right now, so there is certain authority constraint because of which you are present here. If you are working, if you are giving time to certain work, so there are certain limitations put by that particular work, that you have to complete that work, then you can go to other things. Okay, if you have given certain time for movie, like you are going for movie, so your 3 hours are completely blocked, that you will be using that time for the movie there. So there are certain authority constraints which are actually put by the authorities in certain places and certain time. Okay, when you are going to certain place, the particular amount of time is also constrained for doing moving that space, or moving from one space to another space. So this goes hand in hand here. Now, when these principles are applied and how they are used as a part of the life paths, Haggerstrand distinguished between paths, that is traces of spatial temporal location and projects, intentional activities generating the paths. Individuals do not simply move randomly through the space. For example, what I have provided here, one part, that this is the point to where you like to visit often. This is the point where you do not want to visit often. Okay. So here what we are trying to see that individuals do not simply move randomly through space. They pursue meaningful projects like farming, working, shopping, socializing. Understanding paths require understanding the purposive projects generating them. So, what is the purpose of visit to place 2 or place 3? So, that have to be defined very well. Two individuals following identical spatial paths pursue different projects, like a farmer visiting distant market pursues commerce, while a retiree pursues social contact. Okay, so there are two different intentions of moving to a particular location by any person here. So projects reveal purpose and meanings that path mapping cannot alone capture. Okay, so this is something which is very much important for understanding the path. For example, we have farms also, and we have a particular business. So a lot, my father has a very bigger community where a lot of people come to meet him in the evening time. So it is like my father is not retired, is into business, but according to his age, a lot of people have retired then. So they come together, they enjoy their time, they socialize. Okay, they have lot of they talk a lot and they speak about their daily experiences and everything. So this is something where we do in that, where they do in that space, but under the same space there is a doing of business or conduct of business is also taking place on the daily basis. So this is something, that same location here there are two motives of the socialization and the business. Okay, now next is situations and dioramas. Okay, this is an important concept with respect to the behavioral geography here. So Hagestein advanced the concept of situation as a fundamental geographic unit. A situation is a moment where multiple individuals, objects, and projects intersect particular places. Because paths develop in space and time, situations merge moments of potential interaction. Thus, Hagestein introduced diorama following traditional geographers' landscape concept as the space where people live ordinarily, experiencing multiple entities in touch with each other in mixtures produced by history. Rather than analyzing isolated regions or systems, time geography examines actual situations, complex intersections of projects, constraints, and existing entities. Let's understand this part here. Now, under the time geography, we are understanding two things here, that is the space and time. Now, this is seen as a concept of that we have seen here, the situations and dioramas. For example, there is a situation which is present in 1950. I have to travel to a distance which is quite far. So at that particular time, we do not have railways which were moving at 100-150 kilometers per hour. We have airplanes, but that airplanes they were not having very wide connectivity. But then came the era of 1990s, where we saw that with the better development of technology, the time and space it got shrinked. During 1990s, the time and space it got shrinked, and as we come over to the 2025 world, we see that the time and space it has come closer. Okay, it has come closer to a particular time. For example, if I want to visit from Nagpur to London, so it will just take 12 hours plus 2 hours. So it will be taken up in certain manner that everything will be interconnected, and in just 15 to 16 hours I will reach from Nagpur to London. Okay, so this is one thing which is specified in the contemporary time, and the space time it is contracting with respect to the increase in the technological development. Now the same thing is specified by Hagestein in the concept of the situation and the dioramas. I am reading this again for better understanding. Haggerstein advanced the concept of situation as the fundamental geographic unit. Okay, so here we have geographic unit, for example, situation 1, situation 2, and situation 3. That are the three geographical units here with respect to the same space. A situation is a moment where multiple individuals, objects, and projects intersect in a particular space. Okay, so multiple things are happening in space 1, space 2, and space 3. That are the three situations here. Okay, because paths overlap in space and time, individuals emerge moments of potential interaction. Okay, so here the potential interaction, it is merging and it is increasing here. Haggerstein introduced diorama following traditional geography's landscape concept as the space where people live ordinarily, experiencing multiple entities in touch with each other in mixtures produced by the history. Okay, so here we are seeing that we are not only taking the example of 1990, but we are also taking the example of 1950, which are taking as a part of the historical context also here. Rather than analyzing isolated regions or systems, time geography examines actual situations, complex interaction of projects, constraints, and coexisting entities together. So this is seen as an important part of the time geography in this part here. Okay. Now, next is legacy and critique. Time geography revolutionized behavioral geography by providing rigorous frameworks linking temporal and spatial analysis, as we have seen in this particular aspect here. That is the time and space analysis, it is being done together. However, critics notified limitations. The approach through incorporating human intentionality through projects sometimes treated constraint as overwhelming human legacy. Humanistic geographers argued that time geography neglected the subjective meanings individual invest in activities and places. Now, what I have provided here, it is very much objective in nature. But if I apply it to a particular condition, like the development, the movement of people from the Nagpur to London, or I can say the migration of people from one region to another region, the education development, the development of industries. So these conditions will change. Okay, this particular diagram which I have made here, it will change with respect to those particular, we can say, particular individualities that are present in those conditions. So Marxist geographers contended that the framework insufficiently addresses structural power relations producing the constraints. Okay, now Marxist geographers, what they intended here, that in a particular system there are certain structures are present. Structures are basically something which is prevalent in the society or in the particular world. Okay, so this structure, it can be an economic structure, like we have a bank, an RBI bank in India, but we do not directly deal with the RBI. There are certain other banks like HDFC Bank, State Bank of India, then Punjab National Bank. There are certain banks which we are dealing with directly. If I want to take a loan, if I want to buy something, so we have this economic part here. Okay, that is with the bank. I am doing certain economic activity, like I'm teaching right now. Okay, certain people do business, certain people do services. So there are certain economic activities which are based on the economic structure here. But apart from this, there can be other structures like political structure. Like in India, we are having a democracy. How democracy is followed? What are the roots of the democracy? What democracy you are following and what democracy I am following, is it same or is it different? So these things, they are provided under the structures here. Similarly, we will see that there are social structures also. For example, what I am earning, this will decide the status of my level in the society. Okay, so how much I am interacting with people, how I am contributing to the society. So these things, they provide a particular social structure, and I am placed in the economic part, I am placed in a political part, and I am placed in a social part, where I am standing somewhere which is actually part of a structure. I can be here, I can be here, or I can be here, or I can be here also. So this is something which is provided as a part of the structure, where the behavioral geography, it is neglecting the structure, and which is highlighted by the Marxist geographers here. Okay. Next is Aripride and the behavioral matrix. Aripride and the behavioral matrix. Aripride's work synthesized behavioral geography's diverse theoretical strand into integrative frameworks. His behavioral matrix, developed in the early 1970s, represents perhaps behavioral geography's first systematic generalization attempted to explain the individual make particular spatial decisions. Okay. Now, how this is done? The matrix dimensions. The behavioral matrix positions individually along the two axes, ability to use information, horizontal axis, and quantity and quality of information as the vertical axis. I will be drawing this diagram here. So under this, we can say two things here. Ability to use information. Quantity and quality of information I have available. Okay, so these two things we can see here. These axes determine individuals' position within the matrix, which in turn predicts the spatial decision-making patterns. Now, this point what we have developed now, okay, what we have matrix we have developed here, this will help us to determine that where we are exactly right now and how our decisions they are being made. Now, information quality and quantity. An individual's information availability depend on multiple factors: spatial accessibility, proximity to information sources like market, government offices, and media, influences information exposure, socioeconomic status, determines access to education, travel, and professional networks, institutional positions, employment, social roles, structures what information reaches individuals. Cultural background shapes what information individuals attend to and how they interpret it. Okay. Now, in these two conditions, what I can see that I have a certain ability to use information and I have quality and quantity of information. Quality of information here it is good. Quality of information here it is poor. Okay. Now, ability to use information, I whether I can use this information, that is yes, whether I am able to use this information, that is no. So there I can see that I have four scenarios that have developed for me to use any information. For example, uh, in this case, what I can take here, uh, my result of result of medical test. Okay, so my result of medical test, I can say here, my result of medical test, either it can be good for certain specific parameters or it can be bad for certain specific parameters here. So in this condition, am I able to see that the information is good or poor? I can say that it is good here. Okay, it is considered under the good part here. So, but in this case, I can say that am I able to use this information? So I can take a tick here and I will make a cross here. So in this case, I will say that the information which is present with me, it is good. Okay, I'm able to use it. It is having good quality. It is having good quantity. So I will be able to use it for my own benefit. Okay, so this is something which is being provided under the behavioral matrix. So under these conditions, a lot of use cases are being developed to understand that how a behavior of a person, how a behavior of a person can be and how it can be changed here. Okay, now information processing ability, the same thing is provided here what I've explained. So if you want, you can see this part here, you can go through this. Okay, so same thing what I have explained here. This is a simple explanation of a medical test. You can take an example of the education part, the UPSC application. Okay, UPSC, for example, I am taking this class online here, so you can make this information ability to use information for what, for answer writing. What information I am providing to you, it is good or it is bad, poor. Okay, you can tick here. Either it can be good or it can be poor. Are you able to use this information in answer writing? Either it can be yes here or it can be no here. So in this way, you can map the behavior that, or the behavioral matrix you can form here, and you can see that how the interaction between you and me, how useful it is. How useful it is, it can be mapped here. Okay, unless and but there have to be certain validation. There has to be certain validation. For example, the test have to be made here. The test have to be made. For example, if I'm providing you a question, if you're not writing answer, if you're not writing answer, you cannot test this particular aspect here, the ability to use the information in writing answer. So in that condition, what decision you have made, what test you have made, it will become invalid. Therefore, you have to take this complete test to understand that was this information useful, what the information quality was good or the quality of information was bad, so or poor. So it can be understood only after the writing of the answer here. Okay, now moving ahead. Certain criticisms were done with the behavioral geography under the context of the gold age and the evolution. By the late 1970s, or 1970s have come here, even behavioral geographers recognized limitations in the initial approach. The Rengard Golech, a major behavioral geographical figure, criticized positivism as a constraining philosophy limiting the behavioral geography's development. Positivism is basically limiting the development of philosophy in the geography. How? Philosophy is something which is very much subjective, and it is basically a description of something which is done by the human being's mind. Okay, and here when I'm trying to make it objective, it is very much difficult to define the parameters. Like, humans emotions can be defined, but how these human emotions response are there, it is very much subjective in nature. Therefore, I have to do a very extensive study to understand the responses of human beings to a particular emotion. For example, certain people are very angry. They get angry in certain situation. Certain people, they get very much anxious. Certain people, they get very easily depressed. Certain people, they are very happy at a lot of time. Okay, without any conditions also. So these are the emotions which are present there, and these are very subjective part here. Then Goldich and collaborators like Michael Stimson proposed analytical behavioral geography, maintaining behavioral geography's commitment to understanding realistic human behavior while rejecting strict positivistic constraint here. Therefore, this realistic human behavior, this came into the picture. Okay, how it came into the condition, we'll understand here. Then there was a modified positivism. Rather than spreading facts and values, positivism's classic stance, Goldage argued geographers could scientifically interpret beliefs and values. This required developing approaches, incorporating subjective elements, references, values, meanings within framework, enabling rigorous analysis and quantitative verification. Now, to do this thing, to make an individual perception, to develop an individual perception, a lot amount of data is needed, because The data have to be analyzed, the data have to be understood in a very well manner so that the people's behavior can be understood. So this is a very rigorous task. It is not a very simple task. Analytical behavioral geography aimed to develop theories that were more both humanistically informed and scientifically testable. Now, methodological evolution for this particular approach. Subsequent behavioral geography employed increasingly sophisticated methods like game theory, utilization maximization theory, utility maximization theory, choice models based on statistical analysis of revealed preferences, and computational methods. These technical innovations enabled behavioral geographers to model decision making processes more realistically than early approaches, maintaining rigor while acknowledging human complexity. So under this part, we have already seen that how this behavioral geography it evolved, what are the criticisms of behavioral geography, and what were the methodological evolution and modified positivism as a part of the behavioral geography here. Okay, I have taken a case study. I have taken two case studies here. Okay, I think it is 149 already. There are three case study. Okay, so further part I will be taking in the next class. Okay, this is not very big, this is small. So you can go through the case study, you can go through the document and understand any of the case study. We will go through the phase two, that is the analytical behavioral geography, which developed in late 1970s and 1980s here. Now, criticism of initial behavioral geographical approaches prompted methodological evolution. Goldage and other developers analytical behavioral geography, retaining behavioral insights while incorporating rigorous analytical techniques. Now, as I have already provided, that rigorous analytical techniques require large scale of data, and the use of data have to be very much objective. But this objectivity is defining the subjectivity of that individual. Therefore, the choices made by the individual, it went on increasing by the step by step. The steps are followed, and the kind of choices what could be made by that individual, it started to explode. It is only provided here. The same thing is provided here. Choice models and utility maximization. Researchers adopted discrete choice modeling, enabling analysis of location decisions, mode selection, and activity participation. Utility theory provided frameworks understanding preferences structures, how individuals weight multiple criteria in a decision. Statistical estimation of preferences parameters enabled quantitative theory testing also in this particular aspect here. Now, cognitive science integration. Stronger linkages with psychology developed. Researchers applied cognitive mapping theory, examining how people acquire and organize spatial knowledge. Concepts from cognitive science like schema, heuristics, decision rules provided frameworks analyzing mental models beyond simple decision perception. Computational approaches. Computer modeling enabled simulation of decision process and complex behavioral systems here. Now, here there were two things were applied here. One was the agent based, and that was second is the manager based. Okay, manager based will be understanding in detail in the environmental geography. So agent based, that is particular agent. Wind is an agent, water is an agent, human is an agent. Okay, so these are the agents. Represented individual decisions. What decisions are taken in individually? Those are individual decisions and interaction, enabling emergence of macro level patterns from macro level behavior. This computational approach addresses behavioral geographies, perennial tension between individual realism and system level explanation. So what I have provided you in the previous part in a single line, it is same thing is explained here, that large data, large variables, large conditions. Therefore, large scale there will be, we can say, the complexity. Okay, so this became very much complex to be applied. Now, same issues was also seen as a part of the game theory application. I have studied game theory in my engineering. If you are not aware about the game theory, you can go through any of the lectures of game theory and you can understand that how a possibility and probability of a particular event to be taken place, how this is done in a very simple manner by the by the game theory, and its probability how it can be done and how it cannot be done. So this is explained very well in the game theory here. So competitive decisions contexts were examined through game theory, revealing how strategic thinking shapes the decision making process. So competitive decisions context were examined through game theory, revealing how strategic thinking shapes the decision making process. So competitive decisions context were examined through game theory, revealing how strategic thinking shapes the decision making process. So competitive decisions context were examined through game theory, revealing how strategic thinking shapes the decision making process. So competitive decisions context were examined through game theory, revealing how strategic thinking shapes the decision making process. So competitive decisions context were examined through game theory, revealing how strategic thinking shapes the decision making process. Okay, so this is game theory.